a family member who received a whole bunch of cases of apples. We have a whole case of onions, 50 pounds of potatoes, and we have all of this food we got for free. Food was supposed to be auctioned off, but by chances it didn't get auctioned, and they had all of this food, and they asked us if we would like to have it. Those of you who have the cookbook, it's on page 170. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to peel our apples, and I know you've seen me use my little apple peeler before, but what you want to do is you want to always put a little bit of vitamin C or some lemon juice in your water. That will keep your apples from turning brown until you're ready to can them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to peel these apples, and then I'll get back to you and show you the next step. And we are going to heat up the pie filling. Now, I'm going to share with you the direct recipe at the end of this video because I have to substitute some things because it calls for apple juice, and apple juice makes it really good, but I don't have any apple juice, and I've made it without it, and it's fine. It's just not quite as good, but it's still very good. So we're going to go ahead. So I'm adding the 5 cups of the liquid. I'm just going to share with you a little bit how I'm doing it, and then you can see the actual recipe later. So I have some of this. This is sugar, and what it has is vanilla beans in it, and it soaked up the flavor of the vanilla beans. So we're going to use this sugar today for our apple pie filling because I think it would give it a really good rich flavor. It calls for 2 1/4 cups. And that smells so good. The vanilla beans in this sugar. Wow, that is so good. And I have a video on that. I'm going to see if I can find it, but it's such a good idea, putting some vanilla beans in your sugar. So now we have our water and our sugar. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add our thickening agent. It calls for clear gel. Now clear gel is something that you do not want to substitute on. I want to use cornstarch. Now a lot of the old timers, they do use cornstarch, but what happens is it's going to start settling and it's going to look really ugly in your jars, and it doesn't last very long. So we always use clear gel. Now we want to make sure that we really whisk this good. The same as what we do when we work with any kind of thickener, because we don't want to have lumps. So I added a 1/2 cup, and I'm going to go ahead and add the rest to make it 3/4 of a cup. The reason why we don't use cornstarch in the canning is because it doesn't stay nice and solidified nice in the jars. Now we use cornstarch when we're actually making a recipe that has nothing to do with canning. This also you can freeze. This is just as good frozen as it is canned. So now we're going to add 1½ teaspoons of cinnamon. Calls for 1½, and I use about 2 because I like it. It also calls for nutmeg, but we do not like the nutmeg flavoring. So now we're going to go ahead and we are going to add the last ingredient, and that is a 1/2 cup of lemon juice. And then we'll add our apples to it. Add our lemon juice. Alright, that's all we do for the liquid ingredients. Now we're going to add our apples as soon as it starts thickening up, and then we can go ahead and can it. Well, we're on batch number 1. I have another whole batch to do, and I have to get a lot more jars than this. So this is giving me a lot more than I ever anticipated. So what I'm doing is I'm filling the jars with the pie filling. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to put some more of the filling in. This filling got a little bit thinner than what I like, but in the canning process it will thicken up. This is my favorite way of canning apples. So many of you guys ask me about applesauce. I have cases and cases and cases of applesauce. So I really don't need any more applesauce because it's only my husband and I who eats it. My daughter, the one who has the 2 children, her and her husband, they do a lot of canning as well. So the applesauce I'm not going to do. Somebody asked about apple butter. I will be working on some apple butter in an upcoming video. But right now, it's apple pie filling. And it's a lot of it. A lot of it. And this is basically free food. Of course, I had to pay for the sugar, and I had to pay for some clear gel that I bought about 5 pounds of it about 3 years ago. So I had plenty of that, and I actually used the rest of it up. So that is why this is a little thinner. If you ever make something and it's not 100% the way you like it, when you reheat it, just go ahead and then you can add a little more thinner to it. But this works out perfect for me. I'm not that precise in the way I cook, and I always can make changes afterwards. I also cut the apples a little bit bigger than what some people would, but that's just your preference. I didn't have as much time as I should to be doing things like this, so my apples were just a little bit bigger. So we are water bathing this for 30 minutes. So this is a canning recipe that everyone can make. You don't have to have a pressure canner for canning apples. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to fill up all these jars, and I'll get back to you and show you what it looks like. This is how I make my apple juice. This is a wonderful piece of equipment from the Homestead because you can make grape juice, apple juice, any kind of juice. It's a steamer. And the top of it has all of the apples. Now the apples that I used in this one were ones that weren't very good for the apple crisp. And they cook it down. The juice comes out of this hose and it goes directly into a canning jar and it seals. So that's scorching hot apple juice. All we do is we put a lid on it and it seals. From Fanny's Diary, we're on January 15th, 1942. The first time I've ever seen an entry like this. Fret not thyself, Psalms 37.